week.
Actually, yeah, me too. Before the national has to happen. I need that. I gotta go hit up my boy Reggie. You know what's funny? I actually met my current barber out getting Pokemon cards at like Target, literally.
Nunes, we're live, dog.
We're live, baby.
What's
Let's
going
go.
on, guys? This is the Vaulted Podcast, your number one source for cards, collectibles, and the community. I'm not Shivam, and I hope you guys like that tagline. That's a new tagline that I worked on for the new rebrand of the channel. This is actually the official rebrand. Nunes, you're actually on the first episode of the Vaulted Podcast. We welcome you here. I'm glad to have you here. We are 20 subs away from hitting 1,000 subscribers on here as a podcast. So if you are watching us and you're brand new to the podcast channel, or you're watching us through Spotify, make sure you do come to the YouTube channel and hit that subscribe. And if you're listening to this through Spotify and Apple Podcasts, make sure you give us that 5-star review. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe on here on YouTube as well. I'm honored today to have probably someone that I've known since I came into the community, someone that I've been asking questions to, just someone that I look up to in this space, like someone that is the embodiment of what a collector in my eyes should be. We have none other than the vintage Pokemon hunter himself. Just to give you guys a brief, my brief introduction to him, and he can pretty much introduce himself in afterwards. But essentially, this dude, when I say this dude encompasses pretty much every facet of what Pokemon has to offer, I really mean that. That means vintage Pokemon displays. You can see it right there. Vintage plushies, vintage Pokemon toys, vintage Pokemon food, vintage Pokemon cards, even vintage bootleg Pokemon cards, vintage video games, vintage graphic tees. I think Nunes is the CEO, probably the biggest vintage Pokemon tee collector in the game when it comes to Pokemon. I think it's a very, very slept on portion of the hobby still. And, again, it is an honor because I wanted to highlight you specifically within this community itself, just because of the fact that, for collectors like ourselves who collect things outside of the cards we all know has the biggest attention within this space. We all want the other portions of the hobby to have just as much as attention as that. And to be able to do that, we have to highlight people like yourself. So thank you again for joining us in the I was going to say Poke Tea Time podcast, but no, thank you for joining us on the Vaulted Podcast. Again, it's an honor. So yeah, we have Nunes here today. Just to kind of give you guys a rundown of how the podcast is going to go today. We're going to talk about how he got into the hobby, how it's such a simple thing. It's so cliche to do, but the reason why it's important to do this with new guests on the podcast is simply to see the nuances there. I think there's so much nuances when it comes to everyone's beginning stages of the hobby. Like, everyone gets into the hobby, everyone gets to the games, everyone gets to the cards, but it's important to hear those subtle aspects of how an individual gets into the hobby. And then after that, we're going to talk about whether or not he stopped collecting, whether or not he continued collecting, how he got back into collecting if he did, what was the inclination of him starting a social media presence, and then on top of that, we're going to talk about his goals and what he wants to do with content, what he wants to do with this page, and then just kind of go from there. The whole theme of this podcast is how to find vintage Pokemon product, because honestly, I think Nunes here is an expert at that. That dude will find things that I'm looking for like the past 3 years. It's like, man, how the hell did you find that? It's like, I've been looking at this for forever, and you found this? And he's like, dude, I just saw it and it just came up and I just bought it. I'm like, I don't know, man. He has a magic touch. He has a magic relationship with eBay. So again, everyone here, thank you. Please thank Nunes for joining us on the podcast today. Welcome him with a warm heart, and let's go ahead and get started. So, how'd you get started in Pokemon?
Hey man, appreciate the kind words.
No, not a
For
problem,
real. I actually don't have it next to me. I just took a picture of it recently, but the first thing I can remember with Pokemon is I got a VHS like in the mail from Toys R Us, I believe it was actually. I remember it coming in the mail. Just introducing the anime, and it pretty much was like a really big promo for it, and I'm pretty sure it showed the first episode of the show, and I just remember being hooked from there. And then I remember going and getting this Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, and going with my father. I literally remember it to this day to going to Toys R Us and getting it off the shelf, ripping it apart in the car, and just loving that and falling in love really with that.
Couldn't wait till you
And
got home, huh?
yeah, honestly. So long story short, just as a collector, loved it. Went from Pokemon into Yu-Gi-Oh like most people did for a little bit. Then kind of went back into Pokemon. Then went into like sports cards for a little bit as a kid. Then kind of really not really forgot about it all. I always played the games. So I when I got back into the hobby later on, I ended up selling all the games that I had. But just over the years, I played every game. I kept up to this day. I've played through every single game pretty much. So Pokemon was always like that part of my life where it was kind of always like this constant that I thought of because I always like kept up. The games always came out, They never like stopped making the games. So back in like 2013 it was, I was getting back into like I was just at a friend's houses a lot where we would watch a lot of like Pawn Stars and like American Pickers and stuff like that. This is again just like almost 10 years ago. And they would just start to talk about like vintage and like antique and stuff and how things once they become like 20 years old, like people start to really like collect it a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
then once people become like 30 years old, it's like considered like an antique and stuff like that. That they would talk about stuff like that, and that like intrigued me. And I'll go into it a little bit more, but that's kind of why I went into the toy route more early on.
Mm-hmm.
But my first purchase that I bought in 2013 was this actually. It was this. It ends up this is the second print I believe of the Blastoise version, the blue version. Again, the same one that I remember
You
literally
actually
going with my
got
dad.
you actually got a lot of, so you're on TikTok as well. I remember that being one of your first few videos on TikTok where you're showing your
Yeah,
mom that.
yeah. She like
Um,
didn't believe
how
how
m-
expensive it was.
yeah, how many views did that get again?
I think like 60,000, maybe something like that.
Dude, it was a
One of
lot
them
at
did
that.
better than the other. Yeah, and
It
I
was
like
a, it
kept
was a
up with it.
lot at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. But and then from there on, dude, again, I kind of went the toy route because I don't know why I just assumed a lot of like the toys would be just as collectible and like as rare, and I figured it would like reach different people if that made sense because like there's sealed toy collectors and like there's people that just like just toys in general and there's people that like sealed stuff. So and instead of going the card route, I kind of went more of like the toy route and the gaming route. I bought a lot of the Pokemon Mini, the console actually that came out within like Pokemon Center New York, and they released at a couple other places, but that is actually Nintendo's smallest console. Like just like random stuff like that. I was like keen on was like, yeah, this has to be like of course everyone loves the cards and people collect the cards, but I was really focused on that type of stuff just as a private collector, man, to myself really until literally from 2013 up until the end of 2019. I stumbled upon the Instagram community just on my phone, literally just randomly scrolling on Instagram. Someone was doing like one of those raffles. Raffles were really big back then, like the end of
Yeah,
2019.
2019, it was so big.
Yeah. And then I just kind of seen people's names like in the comments, and I was like, oh, people have like their own like name for this. Like, people have like their own profiles and stuff. And I was like, hey, I have all this stuff. Let me just start. What really happened is I was also moving from my room upstairs to like the whole downstairs apartment, like in my house that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I had everything that I had bought in over the years. I've a lot of my YouTube videos is me just going through and opening these boxes and like, all right, what is this? Like, I have no idea what's in this box because I bought this 5, 6 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like a mystery box opening type of thing. And so it's cool to go
Yeah.
through and see what I
Like
randomly
a
bought over
gift
the
to
years.
your future self.
Yeah, yeah, which was cool. But it was also getting like ridiculous. So it's like, all right, cool. This is kind of like a cool transition I can do. And now it's like, damn, I wish I kind of would have did it in a different format because now I kind of want to like redo a lot that again for like TikToks and stuff like that and like IG Reels that they've been like really pushing a lot. I know
It,
you've been pushing the Reels too because Instagram's been loving it. That's the only way
but
to
the
really
thing
get
is
pushed.
that it's never really too late. I think the one thing that you probably should start at, and again, you could start at whenever you are actually at that point, whenever you're
Yeah,
ready. I think the one biggest thing is that you have a lot of stuff, and there's not many people within the very very niche side of the community really even talk about. Like, there's not many people out there that do talk about. Like, my first introduction to this portion of the hobby was first Rule Breaking Nate, because I saw that he was collecting things outside of just cards. Like, he's a true fanatic for that kind of stuff. And then it was yourself and Mew is Me 700. Mew is Me is a massive collector in Richmond, Virginia. Massive. Much respect to her. She has an amazing collection.
Yeah, she was actually when I first got into a lot of random like the food products and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of started diving into that side of the hobby more.
Yeah.
Um,
And so like
once
that
I
was like
like
my
found her
first
page.
introduction
Yeah,
to like people like yourselves. And I think like there wasn't that much attention behind it. And I think this hobby where you know, when you open up Instagram and at that time all you would see is just raffles and all you see was, you
yeah,
know, a saturated feed of just cards. You know, I think, you know, people like yourself, Grace, you know, you guys provided that, you know, moment of relief within you know, that feed right there. Like, you show something where it's like, I don't know, like you could show an action figure, or you could show a plush that's super rare, or you could show a can of Pokemon spaghetti or something, just
yeah, yeah.
something,
I
and it
like
just
that's the type of
provided
stuff,
that level
man.
of relief.
That type of stuff doesn't really get appreciated enough, even
No, it
still to
doesn't.
this day. And that's why I try and keep up with it, man. Of like, especially you were saying before the T-shirts, dude. Like, especially there are Mexican bootleg T-shirts that sell for $2,000+ of Pokemon
Really,
ones, dude. Yes, of like they
bootleg.
sold them. Yes, dude, like fake ones that they sold like on the Elote cards back in the day. Like the dude selling you the corn on the cob, like that dude was selling T-shirts, and some of those T-shirts go for $2,000-3,000. But then something like these Pokemon Center New York shirts that I just got in recently, like I paid for this Pokemon Center New York shirt, dude. I paid $200 for this shirt. Like, come on, bro, you kidding me? Pokemon Center New York,
Wow.
2004, and
Uh,
it's like to
yeah.
come across to like think about that. It had to be from that store, Pokemon Center New York. Like, it's the amount of like overall reach within that Pokemon has, like within the world, but then like the T-shirt community kind of in its own world as far as like people not respecting certain things. It's like right now, dude, the Diamond and Pearl era stuff like goes for more than like something like that would, which like doesn't really make sense, but it goes to like the age group that's really paying up for stuff like this.
Yeah.
Which, all right, is it smart or like, yeah, it's nostalgic to them because that's what they grew up with, right? Like that's what we spend our money on is mostly is the stuff that we grew up with or what we remember, right? So that's it's not like I'm hating on it, but it's like crazy to think that like, all right, that it's not really proportionate to me. You know,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't
it's
really
it's
make
definitely
sense.
different. It's definitely different, and I think like
It's like that in cards too right now, bro. You see a lot of the DP era stuff is like crazy hot right now.
it is, but that's just because of the population for a lot of that stuff is just super low. And but actually, that's actually kind of waning a bit right now. I don't know if you've caught on right now, but the reverse hollows, the reverse stamp hollows from the EX era is actually what's actually getting traction right now as we speak. Just
That's
because
how people are liking the
it's
stamps.
yeah, because it's so hard to get a PSA 10. It's just like you're talking about pop. Like a lot of that stuff has zero PSA 10s for. So it's like, you know, now it's becoming a thing to find sets of cards where you're grading certain cards just to find that one off chance card that has a zero population, and then you're just trying to get it graded. Like it is just absolutely crazy just for a lot of this stuff, and it's to me it's just kind of awesome because it really does just mean that this hobby, for one, never gets old, and that two,
People
regardless
just
of
keep finding new things to go to, bro. It's like, all right, what's not optimized? Like, what can we go to next that's like that people are
yes,
sleeping on?
yeah, and the coolest thing is just that like there's like once you finish one chase, you think you're set, you think you're done, but no, you're not done. You have way more
Yeah.
to collect, and it's just really cool because like I see people like Charizard King, you know, who was super heavy in Neo Genesis, and now he's going super heavy in Diamond and Pearl era stuff, and it's just it's crazy. But it makes sense too at the same time, right? Like things that aren't often appreciated eventually become very appreciated,
That's
and
the
that's
thing.
what
The reason why there's no pop on a lot of those cards is because they were never graded.
yeah,
They
yeah.
literally were never. They were just thrown to the side.
Yeah, and I think that's you know that's where you know you kind of come from, right? Like there's a lot of things that you have in your background that just were never appreciated. I mean, they were appreciated at that time, but people didn't really think of it as a collectible. Like a good example
Yeah,
is the
not at
Diamond
all.
and Pearl Pokemon macaroni, the original Pokemon macaroni, line itself. Like I remember eating that, and so like when you go back and you look at it as a collector and you look at it, it's like, oh, who wants to buy expired food? But when you really think about it, like and you understand that this is something from my past, then it's like it's a no-brainer, right? And so just to kind of get us back on track in terms of the conversation itself, so you got back into the hobby, you started posting, your page caught a lot of attention. You got a lot of people who follow you now to this day, because you show things that are underappreciated, and now people are starting to find much more appreciation with what you currently have. So my next question to you is kind of getting us to where you and I are at now, today, in 2022. So you've done all of this, right? Before we get to the actual purpose of the actual podcast is how to find vintage Pokemon product, I want to know, like, what are your current goals now? Like, you have, well over 15,000 followers on Instagram. You have a massive, extensive collection that touches pretty much every facet of what the Pokemon hobby as a whole has to offer, like plushies, toys. You've just recently completed a huge Pokemon toy milestone. You can talk about that a little bit. But I also want you to talk about, like, what is the future for you? What would you like to do now? Now that you feel like you're starting to get more, you're starting to, finish and complete a lot of your goals that you currently set yourself up to do, wait years and years and years ago. It's like, what's next?
Yeah, so what's next? As far as right now is I'm always looking for stuff, right?
Mm,
You especially, just you never know what's gonna pop up. And like the other day, and I have it coming in right now, I have some really cool Pokemon first movie like standees coming in. Kind of that like match that big one I have up there.
mm-hmm.
Just stuff. I just look at my phone and stuff just pops up a lot of the times. And
Yeah.
like I was telling you before we got on this live here, is a lot of people send me stuff too, which I really do appreciate. The the next thing that I want to do, I'd actually like to have my own store, man. I think I want to try by like the end of this year. I like to have my own storefront here in New Jersey. I have really gotten into vintage clothes, like, besides Pokemon, just vintage clothes in general. And I do have a few people that I know in the area that they do a lot of just vintage, like vintage video games, clothes.
Hmm.
I know a couple people that really just have like a local presence, and I do feel like me having somewhat of an online presence, just being more. I really want to be in a good area, but I do want that. That's the problem right now. I'm finding, because I've just been kind of like thinking about this for the last couple months. Like, all right, let me see, what locations I can find. Obviously, sometimes that's
It's
like the
tough in
hardest part of
Jersey.
it. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
god, dude. A lot of these people want a ridiculous amount, and it's like for a small space, or I'm really far out of the way, and I don't want to really be out of the way from where
Mm-hmm.
I know people are at, really.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to take content a little bit more seriously. As like I was saying before, I want to do more as just far as grabbing. Let me go grab a couple of these figures and 3, 4 of them and post all of them in one day type of thing.
Yeah, and just constantly
Because
repost it like I do. Yeah.
yeah, and just because I feel like the algorithm favors people that post, like, not spam posts, but post more in a day, like 3, 4 times. I've never actually done that before ever. I don't think I don't even know if I've ever posted twice in one day, honestly. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like I've seen a lot of people that post multiple times in a day.
I think the most I've
Um,
ever posted was 4 times a day. On
yeah,
TikTok, I think the most I've ever posted is 7 to 10 times a day.
and I
But that
feel
was
like
like
that could
back
work.
in 2020. I don't know. It's really different now. Like, just to kind of switch gears for a little bit since we're off tangent, and we're talking about content. I think like now, like once you have like a developed platform, it's more of just like putting out more consistent bangers versus more misses, right? Like on TikTok, and like I don't feel like for me, I don't need to post every single day. And if it means me being able to put out a quality piece of content let's say once every 3 days on, let's say, Reels and TikTok, those all have been performing well. Like the new direction I've been doing as far as Reels go have been performing astoundingly well. And so like instead of just putting up something that's just garbage that isn't memorable, that becomes completely dated within seconds after posting. Like, that's not what I want to do. And so what you could easily do is just being that informational type of guy that you are, because guys, like, if you are listening to this, if you are watching this, like, if you just take a look at the background that Nunes has right here, you can just get, like, you will know from the jump that this dude is a wealth of knowledge. And so, like, that, like, you're not doing not only yourself a disservice, I think you're doing a more bigger disservice to the community as a whole, because you have a lot to provide. There's so much that that I think a lot of people should know about. And I think, like, once you're ready, once you're, like, in this comfortable space where, like, you feel like, hey, I'm finally ready to do this X, Y, and Z, and I'm gonna hold myself to this schedule, then I think that's the best thing you could possibly do. Obviously, I wouldn't force it. Like, don't get too stressed out to say, like, oh man, I need to post more. It just it comes with time.
No, I agree with what you're saying too, but I feel like also is that strategy can work well for you because you've already gained such a following. You know what I'm saying? Like, you already have such a following that, like, you're gonna get 1,000 views on a video regardless, just because your followers are gonna see it. Type of thing, almost kind of thing.
But your posts do really well. Don't downplay yourself, man. Like,
no,
your
they
posts
do on Instagram, but I'm saying on TikTok, because I never really built that up on TikTok like that, right?
Yes, but
so
I think,
I'll
like,
post randomly, and they don't really do that well a lot of times. Like,
yeah. I mean, like,
because I haven't built that following on there. I feel like a lot of them just, like, don't hit the algorithm just because I literally haven't.
Honestly, I wouldn't focus too much on TikTok if I were you. Now, I would just say focus on Instagram Reels and start posting on YouTube Shorts.
I've been doing, dude, that I'm sleeping on. I really am sleeping on YouTube as a whole. Another reason why is because, dude, for almost like a year straight, I posted every day on YouTube. But again, people just aren't appreciating this random other stuff like I am. So people aren't looking that up. People are looking up openings, they're looking up investment videos. It's not what people are searching. So it's not gonna hit the algorithm on YouTube because it's not what people are looking at.
But
in Pokemon,
you have to look at it in this sort of context, right? Like, it's so easy to look, and I think this is a problem for, like, a lot of people like ourselves, and I do it too. It happens to me all the time. We constantly look for that instant gratification of the views, of the likes, all this stuff, right? But the moment you switch over that sort of mentality over to, hey, I'm making content for my future audience, that's when, like, that gear starts changing a little bit, right? Like, obviously there's not many people who are looking for the type of content that you want to put out yet right now. And there's a lot of people who are watching more unboxings, but that's only because people like yourself or myself or Grace or anything of the sort, we're not, like, that side of the community isn't posting enough to basically provide that. Like, this is stuff that people want to know.
Yeah.
And so, like, I trust me, when you start posting, it's gonna pop off.
That is kind of why I like the t-shirts and the figures and stuff. That's why I try and post it. And it's like, all right, hopefully somebody else will see this and think it's cool. Or
and
a lot of other people.
Your numbers show that you have well over.
Because like, this other stuff, it's not like people don't remember it. Like, people remember eating this macaroni and cheese. Like, you can't, if you were around in that day, you remember eating these Pop-Tarts.
I remember getting the Charmander.
Going and seeing this movie. You remember seeing this display at Blockbuster, literally. Stuff like that. Like, you just can't not escape it. Like, that big Pikachu, everybody had that. Certain stuff, like even this figure right here, like these with the grabber balls and, like, the 3 Pikachus, those were right next to the cards. So it's like, there's no way you don't remember that. And it's like nostalgia hits that weird part in a lot of people, and it's
not only that,
people have to appreciate it, man. It's
right.
Pokemon will grow bigger as a hobby as more people appreciate things besides the cards.
Correct.
I truly believe that.
And just to kind of touch on what you're saying about, like, people remember seeing those toys. Well, myself and Cash Cutchin, we were just talking about this on Saturday for our podcast. Your first moments that you remember as a child are playing with toys. You played with toys. You played with dolls. You played with plushies. Like, these are, like, you played with those things first before you got to, like, building blocks and even, cards. Like, I played with this stuff before we got to cards. And so, like, every person out there can relate to toys, but not everyone can relate to cards. Like, someone who's in their 80s, they might not relate to Pokemon cards, but they might relate to toys just because they once played with toys. And
Or
like
the
a
video
lot of
games. People forget that that's what really made Pokemon big was the video games.
yeah.
There's got to be more people that enjoy the video games that enjoy the trading cards.
Well, the video
I
game
feel
side
like
of
the
the
competitive
hobby
scene and all that stuff.
exploded.
Yeah, but I feel like even the competitive scene still for Pokemon is still not that big. It's the Pokemon trading card game, the actual game itself.
Hmm.
I still think is probably under Yu-Gi-Oh competitively. I think
It
Yu-Gi-Oh
is.
probably is it's got to be bigger, like as far as the
Competitively speaking,
competitive
yes.
level. Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but no one touches it as far as the collector aspect of it,
Hmm.
which is weird. You would think those would kind of translate. You would think that a lot of people would want. I kind of do actually want to take the time and like learn to compete eventually.
Yeah.
Kind of like get just have that competitor in me of like, yeah, I could play somebody one on one. You know, I don't have to worry about other people type of thing.
Just a, I know we're on a tangent of a tangent, but this is gonna be another tangent. Nunez
Yeah,
here is
go deep.
actually a professional esports player. Like he used like I don't. Do you still compete?
Dude. So Gears of War actually doesn't have tournaments anymore.
Mm,
I haven't played in it's been 2 years now actually. So I kind of went full time into this Pokemon thing. Once COVID happened and there wasn't going to be tournaments anymore, like
mm,
actual tournaments. Long story short, dude, people are comfortable in their bedroom. Like when they play
yeah,
at home and we're playing online, it's a whole different game. More more so back in the day. It's more so translates a lot more nowadays, but a lot of people are super regular when you go to the tournament, but online they're moving around like completely different. Like there's a lot of people that are extremely good at online, but then when you go to a tournament, they're just extremely regular. So
mm,
it's just got to the point where a lot of people were trying to make these teams now because certain players that were really good online that would never travel to tournaments now they're like valuable. Like now their stock has risen because yeah, these guys play the game all day, but they'll never get on a plane. You know, like they'll never actually travel to the tournament. There's just people like that. People are just weird like that, dude. So
no, I get it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but I do miss it. I do miss competing in general, dude. And I actually just miss playing video games, dude. I don't like any video games nowadays. I feel like all video games just suck to me. I don't like BRs, dude. I could never get into battle royales, and that's just what everybody plays
have
now.
you played any of Pokemon Unite?
I have, dude. I played that for a while. It just got too nerdy. It got really everyone figured it out. Everyone figured out meta, and then just the meta kept evolving. And I think the last patch I played was when Dragonite came out. That's how long.
I
It's been a
see.
while.
So it's been a
It's been
while.
a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a while.
yeah,
So that game was fun though. I played it with my friend Will a lot. My friend Ryan, a bunch of us, we played, stack squads for a little bit. Like we had a whole squad going for a little bit.
yeah.
Then it's just me and my friend Will for a little bit. Then it's kind of
Mm,
everyone fell off.
yeah. Um, but no, that's still really cool that you bring this level of competitiveness, and I feel like I totally get it. Wanting to be like the competitor in you definitely wants to just compete,
Dude,
and I
so
think
again, Gears of War. Sorry to cut you off, dude. So the
yeah,
game
go
that I
ahead.
played again, it was 4v4 for the longest time. So I played the game since 2006, late 2006. I got Christmas 2006. I've been playing Gears of War since up until 2 years ago, pretty much.
Yeah,
Most of that time in between, and you always had to just rely on other people. Period. It was 4v4 for a long time. Then it was 5 versus 5 for a long time. Then of course, once I stopped playing, they went back to 4 versus 4. But regardless, you're relying on 3 or 4 other people. But with Pokemon, it's a one-on-one. Like the trading card game, yeah, there's gonna be some random to it. But even if I played like the Pokemon video game versus people, that's still just one-on-one. I don't have to rely on anybody else. I could just play the game, which
yeah,
I kind of like that.
yeah. No, I can totally see you doing that, like, in the very near future, especially after you get all your collecting goals out of the way and you want to
Oh my
set
goodness,
your. I think like the one thing
dude.
that like myself and you that we're kind of just trying to do, and like other people who are in this space who are constantly collecting, but also constantly showing off what we have, constantly just producing content, because you do produce content, like. You're like to
Oh
say
yeah,
that you're not like that's a complete farce. Like you're actually putting out an informational post that I actually take the time to read through, and I know a lot of people do that. And so like it's one of those things where we're trying to make this a living, and because like who doesn't want to do what they love for a career, for the rest of their life, right? Like I put like 100 hours into this, and I know you put a buttload of hours into this, but it doesn't feel like work, you know. Um, but that's kind of like what I want to talk about next, right? I want to talk about what's your how many hours would you say you spend a day in terms of looking for a lot of the stuff that you have today? Like on a regular basis, how
God.
long are you frequenting Facebook Marketplace? How long are you constantly like, DMing people on going through like the rabbit holes of like, I know so and so has this thing that has that thing that knows this one person that has this thing. Like, how long are you spending on a daily basis just consistently looking after the long list of things that you want? Because like that's the thing. Like I'll have like 5 things on my list and then I forget about the one thing because I find something else, and then I remember about the thing that I was looking for like 5 months ago, and it's like, oh, I gotta find this again.
So it's kind of hard to answer that question because it's kind of random what I do. Between it, it really depends. If someone sends me something on Instagram, I'm on it. Like I am on my Instagram. If someone sends me a message if I'm not sleeping, like I am completely kept keeping up with Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So that means there's a lot of t-shirt auctions that go through. So there's a lot of people on Instagram Live that will go live and Instagram off and live auction off shirts on Instagram Live.
Mm-hmm.
So people, for a lot of the times, people will send me those when those are live. I'll look through hashtags a lot. Literally hashtag Pokemon shirt, hashtag Pokemon. Sometimes I even go through and see what people post under just hashtag Pokemon on Instagram. I will literally be standing in Goodwill waiting for carts to come out and be scrolling on eBay and looking on eBay. I just kind of have a mental note at this point of all the different things I search for, like Pokemon store display. I like Pokemon window clings a lot. I collect those a lot. I collect Pokemon shirts. So I literally just type in Pokemon shirt on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon Hasbro, Pokemon. What else do I really type in a lot? Pokemon Center New York is another thing I type in
I'm
a lot.
sure I'm sure on eBay
There's
you have the same thing like me where you have maxed out all the search tabs that you have for like for whatever you're looking for on eBay, because like I have like literally I have numerous amounts of things that I have in terms of saved searches. Like the moment it pops up I get a notification.
Yeah, but I feel like that doesn't work well for me. I feel like that I don't really catch stuff like that, so I'm just constantly checking.
Yeah.
Like that. So
Sometimes I
again,
don't even get the notification.
a lot of people will ask me, "How do you get these shirts? How do you get all this stuff?" Dude, a lot of it I just buy straight up on eBay.
Yeah.
I am just always looking.
Yeah.
I'm just literally looking faster than other people. And I
Yeah.
know other people are looking at it because sometimes I'll pull up on something and there'll be like 5 watchers. I'm like, bro, why did nobody buy this?
And then you end up
Certain
buying
stuff,
it, and then someone else is like, crap.
dude. So let me example, right? Perfect example. Like absolutely perfect example. So
Oh man, I know this. I know this.
so just to give you like a perfect example. Really cool hat, right? So these were employee hats.
Burger King. Yeah.
Yeah, someone on eBay I found a dead stock lot of 10 of them. And I was able to buy 5 of them before other people like bought them. So I got them for a decent price. I sold a couple of them for 100, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep like 3 of them. Dude, people kept spamming me, kept spamming me, kept spamming me. I ended up selling 3 of them, dude, for $200.
I
Okay,
believe it. I believe it.
$200. But again, so again, there's this hat that's sitting on eBay for I think I paid $110 for it.
STS, right?
It's a super trainer. People don't even know what it is when you look at it. That's the thing. A lot of people that would even look at Pokemon Hat wouldn't even know what that is if you looked at it. So certain stuff to me, it's like people won't look at stuff unless it's literally thrown in their face. So if
Yeah.
people like saw my reel and it was like, "Oh, cool, that's cool. I want this."
I
So
think the average
people just
collector.
won't go and look out too. It's what are you gonna look for? Like, all right, cool. That's a really cool hat, and it's not like I'm knocking that hat because I still have one in my collection, and those are really hard to come by. They are. I honestly, when I posted the reel of me finding 5 of them. I was just gonna put them in a bin. Like I
Yeah.
didn't even expect to sell them, honestly. But
Yeah.
people like it was like overwhelming how much people wanted them, and I thought me charging $100 was a little high on them. And then I was like, all right, let me stash these. And then 3 people, someone was like, I'll pay 200. And then I was like, all right.
Demand
up
is
to other people.
demand is
Yeah, that's
demand is
it.
demand. Like you have hat collectors out there. I mean, like
That too. People are
it's
gonna wear them. People are gonna enjoy them.
right.
You know.
And like the thing is that there's so many cross collecting when it comes to stuff like that. Like obviously you have vintage shirt collectors. You'll have people who don't really collect Pokemon that heavy, but they'll still collect vintage Pokemon shirts. Or like you'll have hat
Yeah,
collectors and they'll
exactly.
collect vintage Pokemon hats. Like and then it's so many vice versa things. There's so many different perpendicular moments when it comes to stuff like that people do appreciate, that do want to have within their collection. And I think nowadays, like with people who are our age, there's this whole like that whole fad, that whole trend of being able to incorporate vintage items within their normal day-to-day wear or when they go out. And I've noticed that, right? Like so many
Dude, what's
people will
crazy is
wear.
that's really always been a thing. It really has been. People, you just realize it a lot more now.
Is
They're
it because
kind of
of
like,
social media?
yeah, it really is. But
Mm-hmm.
it's also just always been a thing. Because I remember seeing this video a little bit ago, and it's like, dude, I remember he started. I remember following this one guy, Drew Heifetz, online. He's really big in the vintage clothes, and
Mm.
he's been selling vintage for 25 years. But he's like, dude, vintage, what's hot right now was hot 25 years ago. Band T-shirts, sports stuff,
Hmm.
event stuff, all the same kind of stuff is really the same thing. Like certain things come and go, but a lot of the same stuff is popular right now than it was 30 years ago. A lot of people, it's just getting older now, you know,
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. And I mean, I
which
think
is which is cool to like think about too. It's like,
yeah.
wow, it's
Like even
are
even
people
like
going
the
to appreciate this
bootleg,
in 20, 30 years?
even like the bootleg designer stuff is like
That stuff is
expensive.
nuts, dude.
Yeah.
So more of like so what I was trying to explain to you before about the bootleg Mexican t-shirts, right? There
Yeah.
are a lot of people within the vintage t-shirt community that like bootleg t-shirts, period, because so say like there was a Biggie Smalls concert back before he passed away. That in the parking lot, they remember like they sell t-shirts like in the parking lot, $20, $10 a shirt, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That t-shirt is technically from that event. That'd be outside of it, but it's from that event at that place. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people and there's a lot less of them made. A lot less of them actually made it out of that parking lot who actually bought those back in the day. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people will actually value those way higher than the real ones. But
Right.
then it gets into this whole gray area of all right, now there's people making fake bootlegs. Like it's like,
Yeah.
like come on. That's where it gets down the rabbit hole. And I want to shout out this is one kid. He goes by Momono's World right now on Instagram. He makes
Mm-hmm.
like good, really cool Sonic T-shirts and all these different kinds of designs. He has a couple Pokemon designs as well.
Check them out.
But I actually, dude, last year, the beginning of last year, I bought a Pokemon T-shirt and it ended up being a bootleg, and I had no idea. And it wasn't like this cool bootleg. It ended up was like a fake where a guy was trying to like scam me on it type of
I
thing. Like I
see
thought
where it's like actually worthless. Yeah.
yeah, and this dude actually, I messaged the guy and he sent me my money back. So, but it's like if it wasn't for someone like that, I would have no idea. Where it's something that I took a gamble on. Again,
Right.
someone like you might consider me an expert, but at the same time, I do my research too. A lot of this
Right.
stuff,
Right.
like that,
Right. I
that
think.
Super Trainer show. Sorry to cut you off again,
Oh
but
yeah. Go
that
ahead.
that hat, right? That Super Trainer Showdown hat. Before I went and bought that, just hit buy it now on eBay. I made sure that I went and looked at photos from the Super Trainer Showdown to see if I could find someone wearing that hat, the same exact one. I was like, oh, all right, here we go. Like, all right, then I hit buy it now.
Yeah,
Stuff
you were
like
trying to
that
photo
is
match it. Right.
exactly because, but a lot of the things like that you can't really do in Pokemon because a lot of
Mm-mm.
the stuff just isn't on the internet straight up.
No, no. Like there's a lot of toys that aren't on the internet. There's a lot
Yeah,
of things
at
that
all.
came
But
out
you
of
know they exist.
yeah, and they exist, right? Like for the longest time, they're like shoot on Bulbapedia right now. If you go on Bulbapedia and you search Pokemon combat figures, there is a non the non shiny variant Scyther combat figure is one of the most expensive and rare combat figures out of the non shiny line there is, and there is no pictures of it, and it's just crazy. Um,
Of the
and
normal Scyther.
yeah, like just the normal non shiny Scyther, and I
That's
mean
just
the
saying that it exists, pretty much.
yeah, and I have it sealed. I probably will contact Bulbapedia, just say like, hey, I have a picture of it. Here it is. But like, there are things like from Pokemon Center New York that
Yeah,
existed that no like there are no
seriously.
pictures of, and like we just know of it because like we talk as collectors, and so like I want to like bring up this next thing that I wanted to say is that even though I consider you an expert, I might call myself an expert, but the word expert isn't like this like douchey thing or egotistical thing to say. I call yourself an expert or myself an expert because there's an implication, there's an implied thing that basically states that we're always constantly learning and we're always curious about it. I think the best collectors out there are the collectors that are constantly curious, are the ones that are willing to put in the legwork to go down that rabbit hole and say, like, you know what? I don't know what this is, but I want to know what this is and why. What was the distribution?
Yeah.
How was this
You try and
released?
ask other people that are really into it, and I feel like that's what it
Yeah,
really is
and I think
finding other people that talk about the same stuff, because then you can kind of like fact check each other too.
right,
That's
and
kind
like
of
the
it's
most
like, wait, no,
private.
I know that this exists because of this. That's
Right.
just
Or
how it
like
kind of
I
works.
think that, hey, this is what I thought the distribution was, but hey, I might be wrong about it. And then someone else who's like been involved in the hobby for so long, they never stopped collecting, who is a private collector, you learn, oh, well, this is exactly how it is. This is exactly how this was distributed. Or like this is how you check whether or not this is resealed. Or this is how you check that this is a bootleg shirt or something like that. There's people that are always within the hobby that aren't really too public, that are wealths of information that we like ourselves, like people who are public people who go back to and talk to when it comes to being able to provide the right kind of information, because we always want to do right by people by being able to provide the best information possible. We might not know everything, but like we certainly know more than what the average collector knows, because like not many people would know how rare the Mewtwo Bulbasaur figures that you just got, that you just did to
Dude,
complete.
oh my
Not many people
god,
know how hard it is to collect that.
actually ridiculous.
Not many people know how hard it is to get a factory sealed coughing Hasbro figure that sealed. Not many people know how hard it is to collect that. It's just a lot. Like there are things in the hobby that were so underappreciated that today are now beyond massively collectible and very, very rare, that people like yourself or myself are willing to spend $100 to $200 to $1,000 just for, because we want to be able to complete that collection. We want to be able to provide that level of source of history to people down in the road, that like, hey, this is what you're looking for. This is how you look for it. Like this actually existed. It's just stuff like that.
There's like a selfish part of me that kind of like keeps a lot of information, I feel like, to myself until I find
Until you
things.
finish it.
And
Okay.
then even when I find things and I post it, I feel like not that it's like making it hot on myself, because these are things that I collect, but at the same time, again, I want other people to collect them too and enjoy them. So
I
that's
am
kind of like, you asked me before, like, what is my purpose of this page? What do I want to do next? Like, that's what I always have really been posting for, is to make people, hopefully making other people appreciate all the other stuff. And it's like, how cool is this other stuff to actually have, just besides like these cards? These
you
cards
just
are
want
awesome, and
you just want people to
everyone
give the
has them.
same amount of love to like cards as to all of this. Like you want to eventually see
Yeah.
this side of the hobby just as mainstream as the card side. That's definitely an
Which is
admirable
hard,
goal.
dude. It's
It
hard to
is
do.
hard,
And
but
I understand. I understand why too, just because the cards are so worldwide and always have been, and it's naturally what people collected. Like you
right,
didn't just collect the game, like you collected the Pokemon inside the game.
right,
People
and
collected the
not to
cards
bash
when
on.
we were kids.
Sorry to cut you off, but like not to bash on like cards or anything of the sort, but like I see more first edition Shadowless Charizard cards that pop up on the market on a regular basis in comparison to, let's say, the figure that you just got, the Bulbasaur Mewtwo action figure
They're
collection, like
ridiculous.
right there. Yeah, like the dual action figure, that you can't find that. That is very hard to source out. Like it takes years. There are things that are in your collection that you're trying to complete a complete line of, a complete set of, and you still have not found it after so many years of
Yeah,
collecting.
seriously, it's hard. It's hard because there are a lot of people looking too. I know certain things. There are a lot of people looking, regardless.
Yeah.
Like for Pokemon Hasbro, there's a lot of people looking, especially for these double figures too. Dude, I've only ever seen that Mewtwo Bulbasaur for sale. I missed it literally one time
One
ever on
time.
eBay.
Yeah,
I
I've
knew
seen it once.
I knew two people. What's her name? AJ Wellington in Australia. She has one and will never sell it to me.
She does.
So
Yeah, she's a huge
I asked
seller.
her.
Shout out to
I
AJ, by
asked
the way.
her. She's a huge collector. She barely sells. She started selling some of her stuff, but I tried for a while to get her to sell me it. She would never sell me it. And then I found a random older gentleman on Facebook that had a really big collection that he just like stashed away, but
Yeah.
he wanted to sell the whole collection, and dude, what's crazy is he had a Shadowless 10 Charizard, so he wanted like $120,000 for the whole lot that he had. I'm like, dude, can you just sell me the figure?
Yeah.
Dude, I offered him $500 for the figure and he wouldn't take it. No
Wow.
bullshit. Yeah, I really did. I offered him
Especially in this,
$500.
especially in this
Yeah,
market. Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot.
I ended up getting that. Shout out to my homie Jack, my homie Pac-Man on Instagram. Dude, 6 in the morning, I get a random DM. Literally, I wake up. First thing I see when I wake up, he found someone that had it, and someone dug it out. Someone in the UK. I feel like a lot of these figures too, like a lot of people are sleeping on. A lot of these were only really released in the UK. I feel like
Yeah.
because every time I see them, they come up in the UK.
Yeah, I think and I don't know how the release of the shiny combat figures were, but if you look on the back of it, it says New Zealand and Australia. But I don't ever see any Australian or New Zealand collectors out there with any of it. But you always see it on marketplaces on eBay. So it's like, how did it find its way here? That's always been my that's always been my thing of like questioning. I just don't know how things were released when it comes to certain stuff like that. And I mean, AJ Wellington, yeah, shout out to her. For those guys who do not know her, she is a professional cricketer. If that's what you call it, someone who plays professional cricket.
Right, cricket player? I don't know.
Yeah, cricket player, but
yeah.
She has a massive, massive, massive collection. She had just like got a Lugia Deluxe figure from Hasbro, and I'm like, I just want one for myself after finding Jordan Fringe one. Like, I want one so bad.
Yeah, I can't believe you did that. That's still crazy. That's the real homie move right there, because I still don't have one.
Yeah, the reason why I just did it is just because like I would do that for anyone, you know, like if I know them for so long, like I would do that for that collector just because it's like I know how long you've been looking for this, and you know I just started looking for this, so like I'm gonna let you get your fix, and then I will get my fix eventually, and you know it never hurts to get a little bit of good karma, you know, you might be giving out something, but in return you might get something. You just never know. And so like I just want to know what like your process is. Like are you always checking on the website for Goodwill? Are you buying from there on a consistent basis?
Dude, so I actually
How often do you frequent thrift shops on your week to week? Cuz like I always see you hitting thrift shops.
Often. So I don't buy online at Goodwill at all. Most things that I buy online, and people ask me this question literally I get this question legit every day. Where do you find this stuff? Where do you find this stuff? How do you find this stuff? Blah, blah, blah. It's mostly eBay, for real.
Yep.
That's where I get most of my stuff.
Shout out to
eBay. Wow, that was like simultaneous. But for real, shout out to eBay, because that's the biggest second-hand marketplace in the world.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody says, no one can fight that. It's undeniable.
Mm-mm.
I think I seen some stat that they have like more than 100 million active buyers a day. I don't know how true that is, but I know it's some crazy number like that.
I believe it.
Dude, that's secondhand stuff, which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mostly eBay. Some things that get sent directly to me on Instagram. Sometimes I see things on Facebook Marketplace now a lot of the times, or like Facebook groups. It's funny, you sent me a post in a Facebook group yesterday, and that same dude, he had commented on a post from one of my like in search of from like a year ago, dude, 42 weeks ago, right?
That's
dude,
cool.
He messages me back last night. He's like, "Hey, dude, I found these for sale." I was like, "All right, how much do you want for them?" He's like, "Oh, some other guy asked ahead of you." I was like, "So then why'd you even message me back with these?" It's like you just like got my hopes up completely. I was like super hyped. I was like gassed because it's really hard. It's another thing that I really enjoy trying to find are these bootleg Pokemon cards that I remember from the Chinese vending machines and from the bootleg stores back in the day in China,
flea markets and stuff like that.
They had them everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's another thing they're really hard to find. So I was really getting real gassed up. But yeah, dude, Facebook has been a big thing. The Goodwills, man. I don't even want to shout out Goodwill. I want to say shout out Goodwill, but no, I don't even want to shout them out.
You ain't sponsored. You don't got to shout them out.
But just thrift stores in general.
Yeah.
I am trying to be there. So like Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays are the 3 big days that I'm typically.
You're really in thrift shops that often?
Oh yeah, dude. So because But for maybe only like 2 to 3 hours at a time, sometimes there's some dudes that I know that are at Goodwill 8 9 hours a day, most days of the week.
Wow.
There's a lot of people that are like that. So there's two different kinds of Goodwills, right? So there's like the normal store, then there's something called the Goodwill bins, which is like things literally come in on big blue wheelie tubs, and there's maybe 100 different tubs, and there'll be just random stuff in every tub. People literally, you walk in and you stand by the tub and then once they say go, people just start going at it.
Dude,
The manager,
you're really that dedicated.
oh
That's
yeah, so dude, I literally know you have to know the schedule, you have to know like where stuff is because if not, you're just wasting your time and this stuff. It's gotten really competitive over recent times.
would you say that's like that's just what it takes to be that's what it takes to have the collection that you have today. It's not necessarily, I mean, obviously money is a thing, but I think, to be able to be a you know, I wouldn't say like an average collector, but for someone who's starting out,
You
and
got to do
just
both,
quite
bro.
what, and like
You
is
have to do
always
both.
constantly trying to figure out like how do you get this stuff. The answer is just constantly putting in the legwork.
You got to be online and offline. Like you got to be in real life and you got to be online. So a lot of the time, so I told you there's certain days that I go because like tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Like I'm not going to Goodwill because they're not going to put out clothes. And clothes is mostly what I go for.
Hmm.
Like I'll go for random stuff. Like this morning I'm pissed. There was like 5 racks of clothes out. So all right, I'm going to go through the clothes while everybody sprints to the back for the other stuff. Just most of the time it's just random BS back there.
Right.
Dude, this old guy that's always there has his like 11-year-old daughter with him now because she's on summer break. And as the door opens, she sprints in, dude. She gets this morning Pokemon Ranger, Pokemon Emerald version, and Pearl version. Literally at Goodwill, bro, like $4 each. And
What?
that's the type of stuff that you can. Yeah, sometimes they'll overprice it, but a lot of the times they'll just price it normally. Sometimes,
Right.
and that's the type of stuff. It's like, all right, the one time I don't go in the back because sometimes I'll just go to the back, like search all the good stuff, and then go to the front, then go through the racks of clothes. Like you gotta like you could kind of know what to do once you've been
You have a
going here for a
strategy
while.
once you get in and out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know just from speaking to the employees, tomorrow they won't be putting out clothes, so I won't be going to Goodwill tomorrow. So
Hmm.
tomorrow I'll try and go to like other local spots that I know of. So there's spots that I typically go to on Wednesdays.
Do you ever
And
see yourself being like one of those types of dudes who go through like storage units, or like have you done this before where you go to a storage unit and you buy out
yeah,
a storage
so
unit?
yeah, so they're just not really good a lot of the times. That's why I like stopped doing that. I did that years and years
Oh, so
ago.
you have done that.
Yeah, dude. So dude,
Whoa.
what's crazy is like I said, I was really into like American Pickers. We were into like Pawn Stars and all that type of stuff 10 years ago. So we were actually back then, sometimes you could find some good stuff. But nowadays, it's so optimized that you go to one of these auctions, there'll be 15 to 20 people there almost every time. It's not really worth it. Kind of why I really have switched over to garage sales, flea markets, and thrift stores, local thrift stores specifically. I don't even really try and go to Goodwill that much. It's just on those days, like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, I'll typically go to Goodwill just because there's not really other places that are good to go.
That's insane,
That
dude. That
makes
that
sense. I
like
know
you're
the
just
schedule, bro. Literally.
right. Like that's just insane. Like how dedicated you are. Cause like I don't even do that. Like I'm the most I will do is spend hours on end, like going through like searching for all these different things. I'll reword different things on eBay. I'll check all the
Yeah,
things that
dude.
I'm currently
I
looking
do
for.
that a lot late night. That's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of
I'll,
late
I'll
night
do that.
testing
Like,
I'll
yeah,
do.
and
Yeah,
I'll be on eBay for like till like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's
yeah.
it's just bad, or good, whatever, however you prefer. Like, if you
Some
find
people are
something really
morning
cool, then
people,
it's
bro.
great. Yeah.
Some people do
Um.
that in the morning. Some people literally wake up and that's the first thing they do.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not that I don't. A lot of thing that I find benefit to me too is so like right now, I get off I get off this conversation with you. I pick up my phone. The first thing I'm gonna do is go on eBay and type in Pokemon shirt and go to newly listed. Like literally, that's the first thing I'm gonna do. That's what I start like
Yeah. You're
instead of
you're
going and just scrolling BS on Instagram. Like most of the time, I'll check my Instagram notifications real quick. Like go through my messages,
yeah.
answer people,
You're
and just
actually
keep up
really
with it.
about it. You're really about
Yeah,
it. That's actually,
you have to
that's
be.
commendable, man. That's commendable. Like the whole like thrifting thing. I just don't have time. Like I really
It's
don't.
insane, bro. Yeah, you have now. You have to put. That's the crazy part is you really have to put.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the effort. It's also the time.
Yeah, and so like
I
my
make
thing
the
is like
time, dude.
if I wasn't like doing podcasting, or if I wasn't producing content or writing scripts or just on phone calls with people on a regular basis, then I would be able to. But like Dude, that's a whole like that's something that I'm willing to like pass on just to be able to grow this side of the hobby for. But like
No,
you're
yeah.
actually about it. Like that's crazy, dude.
But I
Good for
kind of want
you.
to, like, I really kind of want to have the schedule more balanced, where like I
Yeah,
do want to
you could do
produce
both.
content more,
Yeah.
because I do feel like, yeah, it's just lacking a little bit because I'm too active waking up and going
Right.
out. But like
So I have a
again, tomorrow's a Wednesday. Sorry to cut you off, and just
okay.
wanted to like briefly go
Yeah, go
into it
ahead.
more. So like on a Wednesday, typically it's not like an off day, but like I'll have like I'll be out for a little bit. I'll only go to like one or two stores. I won't be waiting around nothing. I'll just come back home. Right then, like Thursday is a day where again I'll either go to Goodwill all day, or there's actually a flea market on Thursdays. But the problem is it's like an hour away from me. But it's actually
Mm.
really good on Thursday mornings and Sunday mornings. So if I don't go on Thursday, I'll try and go on Sunday. And the same thing with Friday mornings, dude. So there's a Friday morning spot where it's just a flea market, but it's only for Fridays. That's
Hmm.
really only a Friday spot. Then also what I've been doing a lot too recently is estate sales. So I do estate sales as well. I've been doing really well at estate sales with vintage clothing. So if there's not any estate sales on a Friday, I'll be out at the flea market.
Wow.
Then from the flea market, sometimes I'll go to the Goodwill. But then same thing with Saturday, same thing with Sunday. So that's kind
Dude,
of
that's
like
actually
how my
crazy, like how
weekends are going.
committed you
Yeah,
are. It's
you
just
have to be
crazy.
to get the stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. So before we start wrapping things up, I have just a few more questions for you.
ever. Go ahead.
One is what would you say out of all of your years as a hobbyist and as a collector and as someone who is always hunting for a lot of the goals that you want to complete, what would you say is the most expensive find you have ever found when it comes to Pokemon?
As far as what, like,
Just
what do you?
anything of Pokemon, what would you say is the most expensive thing you have ever found?
As far as like in the wild, as far as what on eBay, like in general,
Uh,
what do I think is
outside
the most
outside of eBay,
expensive item?
so like every like in the wild, so whether it's thrifting,
I
what
think the most expensive item I've ever bought that I have in my collection. Besides, I think obviously the blue version, I have a base set box just sitting on my desk right now that I plan on breaking eventually. It has to be the Team Rocket shirt that I have. That's from like Giovanni's gym from the Tropical Mega Battle.
you
Uh,
found that in the wild.
dude, someone on Instagram randomly messaged me with it. Crazy. She's a longtime collector. Sirius, shout out to Sirius on Instagram.
What was what? Okay, so
She bought it from a collector back in like 2009.
okay,
It's because she had the old school the Team Rocket like deck
yeah.
thing that was back in the day, like 2004 or whatever. There's like some rare Japanese Team Rocket thing.
Hmm.
She bought it just because it like kind of matched
Outside
it.
outside of internet completely, outside of social media, outside of eBay as a whole, what's like the biggest find you've ever found? Whether it's an estate sale, like combined when it comes to estate sales, garage sales, thrift stores. Well, like in the wild, you go out to a place like
Dude,
what
that's a
has
good
been the
question.
yeah.
So honestly, I think maybe recently actually I went to a garage sale and a gentleman literally had just like old lady clothes, like old lady jackets and stuff just out. So I pulled up and I asked the guy, and he had just like a older, I think it was orange and purple shirt. It just looked really crazy. I was like, this dude might just have some t-shirts, might just pull them out. Never know. This gentleman, I said, you looking for anything specific? I said, yeah, I'm looking for t-shirts. He's like, what kind of t-shirts? I was like, mostly like Disney, Giants, Yankees, because where I am, I'm in New Jersey, so
Yeah.
the local team is, I like the Yankees, the Giants, metal shirts, anything like that. No exaggeration, this guy must have pulled out like 70 vintage Yankees t-shirts. I
Mm.
ended up getting 45 t-shirts off of this gentleman for 80 bucks, and that easily has to be worth a couple grand. Some of the shirts are worth 60 to 100 bucks each. Like they're like
Wow.
crazy good shirts. That's definitely up there with them. Dude, I found a Gold Star Mewtwo last year.
I remember
Um,
that.
yeah, insane. I found that for 10 bucks.
Yeah.
I found a lot of t-shirts that are in the worth a couple $100 range.
Wow.
But a lot of my really expensive stuff has been mostly just on Instagram and on eBay, dude. Though that's the main source. It's everyone think I swear it's not this like secret.
It's not a secret. No.
Everyone swears that I have like this super secret that it's like
Yeah.
I'm doing more than anybody else. No, that's it, dude. That's really where it is.
Yeah.
That's
I,
the
I, I kid you not. It's the
secret
same
to
thing
it
for
is just
me.
looking often, dude. It's just looking
Yeah.
often. That really is the secret. Is
I think
keeping up
it's
with you.
knowing what to look for. I think that's what it is. Like
That too.
what to look for once you kind of optimize like your searching. Like instead of just looking for cards, like it's kind of like when you first get into the hobby, right? You don't
Yeah.
know what sets have the biggest chase cards of all time, but once you spend a few years on it, it's like, oh, well, there's first edition Shadowless base set, then you have first edition Neo Genesis, and then you have obviously like any set that has Gold Star Pokemon. Like you learn relatively fast. It's sort of like
What's
that
good and
with the
stuff.
other
Yeah.
side of the hobby. And so like once you sort of know what to look for, it kind of becomes second nature, I would say.
I
As
think
far
it's
as
like
eBay goes.
being broad on eBay and like
Yeah.
knowing how to search too. Like I always put like all categories, like search worldwide. So it's like you got to make sure that you're putting those filters on too, because that definitely matters.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
missed
yeah.
I've missed things, not doing that.
Yeah, no, one of the biggest things in my collection, I bought the Play-Doh box. I bought my Play-Doh box from a guy in Italy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you have to have the worldwide search on because, like, there's going to be collectors out there that have things. Like Alex PSX here, he has stuff that's crazy. It's just crazy. He sent a picture of his collection. I'm like, bro, how do you have this stuff?
That's another thing that people. So wait, before I get into that, I got that Mewtwo and Bulbasaur dude where I finally found it. It was in the UK.
Yeah.
It cost the same amount to ship it than I paid for the item, literally.
You spent $1,000?
No, it cost $120 total. It was literally the same. It was the same amount.
Oh, okay.
Like to ship it. It cost 50. It was like $60 for the item, and it was 50 to ship it. It was insane. But there's a lot of private collectors in Pokemon, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I just started posting at the end of 2019. I've been collecting privately since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So how many other actual? There's a lot of private collectors that just have some insane stuff that people
They
don't even
do.
know about.
That's why I had
That's
Cash
why-
Ketchum. That's why I had Cash Ketchum on here because like he's not really a public figure. Like he's not a public figure, but he has probably one of the most extensive and rare Pokemon figure collection out there.
That's cool. And it's
Dude
cool to
has
highlight
dude
stuff
has
like that,
shiny
too.
lottery Tomy figures. Dude has it's just crazy. It's just crazy. With the amount of stuff that he has and hopefully they sell their stuff. That's what I want. Hey, you're a private collector, just sell your stuff. I just want one thing from your collection, like I've been wanting like there's only 2 people that I know, well 3 people that I know that are private collectors that have factory sealed shining Pikachu combat figures and they just won't sell it. They just will
Yeah,
not
not at
sell
all.
it.
Not at all. There's
And
no-
like
there's no
hardcore
reason to.
collectors will not sell their stuff. Like they just won't. And it's not, some people have like life situations where like, hey, I have to sell this. Understandably so. But, I'm hoping for people to sell some stuff. But last thing before, we end this podcast is if you could give any advice to people out there that are watching this that are only collect cards, but like if you're offering advice in terms of help, what would you say to someone who is wanting to get into, that side of the hobby, to the niche side of the hobby versus like, obviously you know what I'm talking about. It's so easy to find cards, but like what would you say, what would you give advice to in terms of like what sort of advice would you give to someone who's trying to get into that side of the hobby? Like what would you say?
I would really say, like I was just telling you, is to really go and look at other places too. Is to really like learn how to maneuver eBay to your advantage, right? Learn how to navigate eBay. Learn how to really look at Facebook Marketplace. Try and find places local to you. You never know what's just like around you.
Mm-hmm.
I just found this insane Diamond and Pearl toy lot a couple days ago. It's like 20 plus items, all factory sealed stuff. It's just like you never know what is really just gonna pop up. I just found that recently on Facebook Marketplace. So it's especially a lot of people that live in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of
Like me.
Ohio, and yeah, dude, where you live, it'd probably be good for you to go out and just like look around. You never know
Oh,
what's
dude, I'm
actually
telling you
around
right now, there's a buttload of people here that have just vintage NASCAR stuff here. It
Yeah,
is
stuff like that,
not
yeah,
funny.
I believe it.
It is crazy out here. The
Yeah,
flea
but I
markets
tell
out
you-
here are crazy. Thrift
All that
stores
stuff
are
because
crazy.
It's so wide open down there too. There's so much
Yeah.
it's so much stuff. It's not like everybody crammed on top of each other. It's a lot of
Yeah, it's
open.
a lot of open space. It's a lot of people who kind of struggle from time to time, so they're willing to sell whatever they have. There's people here at garage sales on a regular basis. Like I think what makes a just an average, like, I think what separates the average collector, and there's nothing wrong with being that average collector. Everyone participates in the hobby to their own, comfortable degree, but like what makes a great collection versus a, an amazing collection, like an okay collection versus an amazing collection, is it's just how long are you willing, like how much time are you frequenting eBay? How much time are you frequenting Mercari? How much time are you frequenting Yahoo Japan? Do you know the
Yeah,
kanji for
for
Yahoo
real.
Japan? What's
Yeah, I don't really talk about that a lot. I've actually have gotten a couple cool things. Not really on Yahoo Japan, more so on Mercari Japan,
yeah,
or, like through Bai. I have gotten some cool stuff through that.
that
I
knowing
actually
by E?
I just got a email this morning about my package got consolidated. I gotta go ship that out actually.
Yeah,
But
I have.
so like what I would say to like to people too, right? So like where I really learned a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
you were saying Bulbapedia. I learned a lot of stuff on E4. I learned a lot of stuff on like PKM and collectors, just like going through and
Mhm.
literally just Googling certain stuff. But then also going on YouTube. I watched a ton of YouTube videos on certain things that are actually out. I went and I really like dug and tried to find cool Instagram pages that are showing all of this stuff. Like I remember there's this one dude, and it's actually kind of why I made my name Vintage Pokemon Hunter. There's this one dude, I believe it's Frank is his name. His name was Vintage Pokemon Collector. It's all one word. And
Yeah,
he's
I know what you're
a
talking
private
about.
collector, like you have to request to follow him. He doesn't
Uh
even like
huh.
use Instagram
I
anymore.
think I have him.
But a lot of the stuff you probably do because he was around back in the day, like when you were around, like when you first like started.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
he was a guy that he really what I would say, what would I say to a collector is to buy what you like. Number one, first of all, buy what you like. Like I just happen to like all this random stuff. These toys, like these displays, these like
yeah,
calculator. Like I just like all this random type of stuff. I don't really. I feel like I really got rid of a lot of the stuff that I wasn't really too like that I cared about a lot. I sold a lot of modern stuff recently that I feel like I could just buy it back whenever,
yeah.
and it'll just be available. You know,
That was like sort of what I did with a lot of the vintage cards that I had. Like I had to
just
consolidate, a lot
consolidated.
of those
Yeah.
vintage cards just to be able to buy bigger cards or bigger pieces. Just because you have to ask yourself, like, how hard is it to find X, Y, and Z? How easy will it be to replace X, Y, and Z? When I sold my 2 Plasma Storm booster boxes in 2020, upon receiving it, I bought toys. I used the money and bought toys. Why? Because I
Cool.
just had an understanding that, like, hey, this is just gonna be much more difficult to find, and it's just it's just something that I liked. And if you're someone who is watching this podcast or who is listening to this podcast and you see these cards, I see a lot. Honestly, every time I see your page or every time I post something up that's non TCG, it always pops off. It just always pops off. It does so well on Instagram. It just does so well on Reels. It does so well on TikTok. Just because, like, you just see cards so often. I think people just have appreciation for just older
Yeah,
things, right?
and dude, you know
Like,
what's crazy? When I post cards, it doesn't do well. How funny is that?
dude, I will
When I
post a
like people like
Digimon
don't
card.
give a shit to look at my page for cards, literally.
Yeah, I mean it's
Hysterical, actually.
yeah. I'll post a modern card up, 100 likes. I'll post a toy up, 1,000 likes, and I'm like,
Yeah, just because
okay.
that's what people really want to see, dude.
I
That's
think
what
people are
like
just appreciated of it. People just appreciate it.
when you have that niche like that niche and you built it up that way. I feel like, we were talking about this a little bit before we went live. Is again made my name Vintage Pokemon Hunter, right? So people are looking what am I looking for? I'm obviously out looking for vintage Pokemon, right? Like
Hmm.
regardless of me going out to these thrift stores and I'm finding T-shirts and I'm buying and selling, etc. Excuse me. The number one thing, bro, when I'm out, I'm looking for vintage Pokemon.
Yeah,
Like that's the number one. Like, dude, today was crazy because a bunch of games popped up. Like, there was a bunch of stuff that actually popped up today, which is crazy to see in real life. A Game Boy SP, Emerald version, Pokemon Ranger. Like these are actually games that I played, and it's
yeah,
cool to actually just see that in real life for a couple bucks, which is like the SP though. For some, they wanted $40 on the SP, and it like barely worked, but all the games worked, which is nuts. And you know what's
yeah.
cool too, dude? Like you sent me yesterday those bootleg cards, and so now I'm trying to go. like I was saying, I'm really trying to get on Facebook groups more. I think people are sleeping on Facebook groups
Yeah.
still.
People
Somehow.
100% are sleeping on Facebook groups.
Facebook groups, dude.
Specifically Pokemon Facebook groups. You are sleeping. I'm not talking about like Burbank and Burbank City in terms of cards. I'm talking
All the
about like
random
vintage.
ones, like all the super random ones.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
follow the ones that have collectibles in there, and strict like people who are like only strict about only collectibles on there. Like those are the ones that you have to frequent, just because like there's so many people on there that you just don't even know about. Like these are people that refuse to have Instagram and just have Facebook.
Yes,
These are
dude.
these.
It's like that.
Yeah.
This one guy I met at Collecticon was telling me, dude, back in when Instagram first came out, that's where all the scammers went because they could just make a random username and like hide behind the username. Where on Facebook, you know you're legit because it's like your real profile.
Now it's the exact
You know?
opposite. Now I see more scammers on Facebook than I see on
like,
Instagram.
Exactly. It's crazy how that really worked. When you
Yeah.
said that, I was like, that
Really?
makes sense for 10 years ago. Like, I could see that being a thing.
Yeah.
'Cause the scammer could just go make any random username
Actually,
and go buy whatever.
Actually, it was Kanto Chris that told me that exactly.
yeah,
The guy
exactly.
who's in charge, the guy who's in one of the mods
Has all
who's
the
in
crazy
charge.
errors and stuff.
Yes, the guy who's
Yeah.
in charge of Burbank City Pokemart. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about now. He said the exact
wow,
same
I
thing.
didn't even know that. I didn't even know he
Yep.
was in charge of Burbank.
Yep,
Wow.
yep. He's one of the very few people that's in charge of it. It's dude had a bunch of PSA 10 vintage
That guy
Digimon
is
cards. I'm like,
Insane, dude.
bro, this is insane. Dude had a
That
booth
guy's
in the way
whole
back.
stand was nuts. That guy's
Yeah.
entire display was
Yeah,
insane.
there was a lot of there was a lot of like, and that's another thing. I think a lot of people sleep on shows still. People sleep on card shows.
Dude, that's another thing. I didn't even bring that up. That's another thing that I do pretty often. Like, I'm going to the National. I know you're going there. It's
Yeah, I'll
next
be
week.
there.
But dude, even this past Saturday, me and my friend Will, we go to a lot of card shows. I've vended at card shows a lot. Like, ever since card shows have been back, like pretty much like this year into like the beginning of last year, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the end of last year. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
We've been going to a hell of a lot of card shows, and like I said, we even vended at one of them and did pretty well.
Yeah.
I did, dude. I sold like a couple $1,000s worth of stuff. It was like $3,000-4,000 worth of stuff the first
Yeah.
time I went and vended.
Dude, let me. I mean,
A lot of modern stuff too.
Obviously, you probably saw this on my Instagram, but this was I never ever buy like actual cards for my personal collection at shows. I've only traded to get my Beckett 9 first edition Shadow Charizard card at a show, but this is the only card that I got at where is it at? That I got in Charlotte, North Carolina, of all places. And Charlotte, North Carolina to me is only a few hours away. It's only 2 hours away from home for me.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
awesome.
like me finding this was like super massive because when I was on eBay, not many people know this, but one of the most niche Pokemon card collectors in the world is Mirmex. He's an Italian collector. He's on eBay. If you haven't checked him out or you don't frequent his Instagram account, I would strongly suggest following him because you learn a lot just from watching. But this card right here is the only card I found, okay? And I bought this for $100, but Mirmex sniped the other one away from me for $50, and it's this right here. The Bandai 2003 Charizard card. Super duper cool. Let me let it focus in. Well, it's probably not going to focus just because all the
It
glitter
wasn't
on there.
just a random stand just had that. in
Yeah,
Charlotte?
and it was on the way back. It's a card shop. It's an online card shop called Foxhole Gaming. They're based in North Carolina. He had like it was in his actual display, but he had other things on top of it. And I already saw some other stuff at his booth that was like very very niche Japanese stuff that like it's stuff that I normally collect. And I'm like,
Oh,
let
I
me
know
just
what
keep.
you're talking about now. It's like in the back left corner, right?
Yes,
you
yes,
walk
yes,
in-
yes, yes,
yeah,
yeah. Like near the cars, near the cars.
Yeah, I seen that guy stand actually. I know what
And
you're talking about.
I was looking, I was like, if this guy has this, I'm sure there's gonna be something here that I have been looking for. Mirmex, Mirmax. Oh no, Marmex. There you go, Mirmex.
Mirror mix.
Mirmex, Mirmex from Italy. He's on eBay as well. I think it's on eBay. I think it's Mirmex 1. But yeah, I mean like.
You never know what pops up. Dude,
Yeah,
this-
you just
this one
never
dude
know.
locally-
You never
This
know.
one dude had a bunch of vending stuff. He had a bunch of Versus Series stuff. It's just like
Mhm.
a lot of older gentlemen, especially here in this area, dude, in New Jersey, New York, PA, etc. A lot of people that are into sports cards, they just come across, they just buy a Pokemon like in collection sometimes.
Yeah.
So a lot of these guys just have had stuff forever, and now
Ever.
they're just starting to pull it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, it's such an interesting. Honestly, it's such an interesting time in the hobby because I feel like now we are learning so much more about things in general when it comes to Pokemon, when it comes to vintage Pokemon in general. And it's just, again, it's just an awesome time. Whether it's Pokemon toys, I'm learning so much more every single day. Whether it's Pokemon cards, I'm learning so much more about every single day, about like the very, very niche things.
What's crazy though too, bro, is eBay and a lot of these websites are like pretty much completely wiped. Like there's nothing
Yeah,
there's nothing good that like sits anymore because stuff has just all been bought up. If
it's
it's not been bought up
extremely
by someone
competitive.
like me, it's just gotten to the point where other people are actually starting to enjoy it. So a lot of really good stuff simply doesn't sit anymore. A lot of people are
Yeah,
actually
it's
buying this stuff
there
up.
and it's literally there, and you'll see 5, 16, 17 watchers on it. Like a good example is Jordan Fringe's Lugia Hasbro Deluxe figure that I bought, and then he pretty much reimbursed me back for. I saw this like literally. I woke up and I saw it, and this is something I literally looked at for numerous
Like you
amounts of
just
weeks.
typed in Pokemon Hasbro, right?
No. It was literally Lugia Hasbro, and that's something that I
Oh, you
always have
typed in, okay.
saved in terms of my searches, just because I love Lugia. It's something I always have. Lugia figures and Lugia Hasbro is something that I always have saved. And so like when it popped up, I'm like, wait a second, this just popped up. It has $180, but best offer, okay? And so like I was no, not $180. It was it wasn't 180. Sorry. It was like 600 and something dollars. And I was like,
Ooh,
okay.
yeah,
I was like,
that
you know
price
what?
is
Best offer. I put down a best offer for 400. But then I saw that the dude is from my own state. I said, okay, like I'm gonna help someone out. But two, there was already 20 people watching it, and I'm like, you know what? This dude was not responding to my best offers. Yeah. This guy was not offering to my best offers. I said, you know what? I'm buying it because if this sits here too long, someone else who knows what this is going to buy it, and it's in mint condition. It is exactly factory sealed. It has all the wires around it. I'm like, I'm not gonna even do it. Like even with the tent that I have here, there was already people watching it, and I was like, you know what? The seller took way too long to respond to my best offers, like a couple hours. I was like, you know what? I'm buying it. Buying it in full. Bought it for $400. I was like, you just can't. Like, I'm not going to negotiate that and regret not buying something, and then it's just gone off the market for another 3 years, you know? Like,
That's the annoying part, though, where it's kind of like people could just really make up whatever price they want on certain things. Where certain things, it gets annoying, though, because if you don't know what the last sale was, and a lot of the times the last sale doesn't really matter because it's like, all right,
how bad do you want it? It's how do you really want it or not? Yeah.
I kind of hate that certain T-shirts have become like that. Like the most I actually ever spent on a Pokemon T-shirt, I've spent $1,500 before on a Pokemon T-shirt.
Wow.
That's the most money I ever spent.
What's the most you've ever spent on Pokemon?
I spent $11,700 on my Shadowless set. Like the Shadowless 9 set that I bought.
I remember that.
Yeah, pretty much $11,650. That was the exact price that I spent.
Yeah, I remember that day. Like I remember being involved with that. Yeah.
That was still like a really good price. It's still even right now. It's still a good price.
Yeah.
So what I actually want to do, what my goal would be with that is, I would like to try and actually move that at the National because I want to buy a Shadowless 10 Blastoise.
Yeah.
And I was saying that before. There's actually one on the market right now. So I'd like to try and if I could move that into that because I've actually ever since I bought that Shadowless 9 set, I have been moving into buying Shadowless 10s. So I've been just like buying everything else in a 10 besides the hollows.
Just slowly upgrading.
So eventually I do want to upgrade all of the hollows into a 10, you know? So if I could take all those and consolidate it, it is more of one of those things where I could buy any Shadowless 9 hollow pretty much will be on eBay right now, maybe besides the Chansey. Like most of those other ones are going to be on eBay. You could just buy it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Shadowless Blastoise, I haven't seen one pop up in 6 months. And the last person that I talked to wants 20,000 for his. Like I know someone that has 2 Shadowless Blastoise and he wants 20K. It's just like too high. I know it's too high because I know that the one sold for 14K. And the one that's on the market right now, the guy wants 13K for. So it's like, I know 20 is way too high. I offered the dude, I said, I'll trade you my whole set just for the Blastoise, and he wouldn't do it. So
yeah, Alex PSX says in the chat, just keep everything and buy it never, buy it and then never sell. I'm like, but that's not the thing. That's not the reality for a lot of us collectors.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to really do. I'd love to do that, and
because like think about it this way.
What I really try and do is I try and really not sell really rare shit that I can't get back, and all the other stuff is is fair game in my opinion,
Now,
pretty much.
I wanna add to that just a little bit. Is that often at times, you will find something that just randomly popped up on the market, and it's something that you've been searching for such a long time, and it's like you really have to sit there and think, how much higher, in terms of a priority list, is this compared to what you have right here? And often at
Yeah,
times you have to make that hard decision, right? Like I might not have $20,000 in it like right now, but if I saw this just for the aspect of being able to level up, then you bet your ass I'm gonna sell it.
that's the hard part. Exactly. It's like I don't want to sell the entire set of
But
16
sometimes
and
you
a
just
9.
have to.
But if that's what's gonna take for me to right now, like to be able to get this card and have it, because I don't know, like Shadowless 10 Blastoise, I'm pretty sure the pop is still less than 50. A lot of the people that have those cards, like they're deep in their collection. Most people have, I know people that have multiple. So how often? There's so many people that I asked, and they're willing to sell me their Shadowless 10 Charizard, but they won't sell me their Blastoise.
Yeah.
So it's like, why won't you sell me the Blastoise? A lot of people are think it's undervalued, blah 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 blah. I just want one because I love Blastoise. I'm a Blastoise collector. I've always like that's
Yeah.
just something I've always loved. Blastoise always been my favorite Pokemon. Like there's no Pokemon's even close in my opinion. Like to me personally. So
It's
that's
cool
just
because like
what I
you're a
collect.
huge you're a huge Blastoise collector, and I'm a huge Charizard collector, so it's like it's
Yeah,
really cool right now. Andy here in the chat, Tap Lab. Shout out to Tap Lab. If you're not following 100 Charizards, make sure you do so. Always has spicy memes on his stories. But he asked, do you ever search the eBay sold history just to see if you missed anything crazy?
oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Dude,
Literally
it's
a
dude,
lot.
it's always like a shot. It's like, man, I missed out on this.
That's
When
how
did
I knew
this sell?
when I missed the Bulbasaur and the Mewtwo last time. I was so upset. Like when I seen that sold and I
It's
missed it, and
like,
it was
dang.
$200 when I missed it too. I was so sick.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
It's
I check that every day. Actually, I check that often for T-shirts to see if I missed anything.
or
On
like has it
Hasbro.
ever
I'm
happened
a
to you
city of
where
New
like
York.
has it ever happened to you where like you'll hit cuz like I'll do this for a lot of things that I'm watching. I'll hit the little heart and I'm watching a bunch of different stuff, and then you're like saying like you'll say to yourself mentally, it's like, okay, I'm going to get this next week, or I'm going to get this week at the end of this week or whatever, cuz I just bought something massive, and then all of a sudden it's just gone cuz someone bought it. Has it
Worst,
ever
bro.
happened to you?
Yeah, of
That's
course.
the
That's the worst.
worst.
I have something in my cart right now that I'm like, because I just told you, I just bought these movie displays. Like I'm trying to save, I'm trying to make capital for the Shadowless 10 Blastoise, and I'm just over here keep spending hundreds of dollars on random Pokemon things that pop
Dude,
up.
that's me all the
So
time.
it's like it gets ridiculous. So it's like, but dude, like I said, you never know what the hell's gonna pop up. So I'm always
Mhm.
trying to have capital on hand just because you never know what
Yeah, you never
every
know.
time. Like right now, like I said, after this conversation, I'm gonna go do a check because I haven't been on my phone in a little bit. Like and so what have people go like right before? What's crazy too is right before we joined this. I joined on this Discord call on this podcast. I was actually speaking to somebody on Facebook that had a bunch of old bootlegs. And like I said, bro, those are freaking hard to come by. So
Yeah.
now it's like, all right, now I got to talk to this guy. And the thing is, especially with the bootleg cards, people don't know what to charge for them. You can't just like go on eBay and look up comps on these things.
Nope.
And I try sometimes I tell people because I really don't pay a lot. I don't pay up really a lot for them. Dude, sometimes I'm paying more for the card than the real card is worth.
That's
Literally. A
crazy.
lot. Think about that. Think of like right now, if I were to go buy like
You're
he had
paying more for a fake than an official.
no bullshit, bro. He had a victory bell from Jungle.
Do you ever
Look
see
that up right
yourself?
now. How much is a victory bell from Jungle? There's no
I
way
don't
that
even
card's
know.
$20. There's no
Not a
way
clue.
that card is if you bought that near mint, it's $20, right?
I don't think
Like
so. Yeah.
but I'll pay $20 for the bootleg hollow of that card, like all
Now,
day.
now
You
let me
know?
ask you a question, because you do buy bootleg cards, and I think this is just my last question for the evening, just to kind of wrap it up.
Alright.
So for those guys who do not know, in India there was a toy company called Fun School. Fun School was a toy company. They only had limited licensing when it came to Pokemon, so that only stretched out to just toys. The company itself started to print out. That's what I was about to ask. Pokemon cards. They started printing out Pokemon cards, and there was this huge debate on E4, and still to this day, there are people out there that do buy Fun School cards. The card is from India. I think that one's plastic, if I'm not mistaken. Is that one plastic?
No, this one's
That's actual cardboard. It's like, is that the Who Am I card, or what am I?
This is a different version, yeah. So this is the Who Am I? There's a couple like
Yeah.
there's two different packs. So there's like
So that's not
sets.
considered. That I think so like with Pokemon's licensing, it was kind of vague but not so vague. they technically aren't allowed to print out Pokemon cards. And so they printed out cards. And so, like, Pokemon then stripped out their entire licensing. So even though those cards are from an official company, it is not an official Pokemon product, which is
so
crazy.
That's
So
the thing is what they did is they made like in India they did like the Play-Doh, like everything that pretty much that was there that they did the licensing for that over there. Because even like Europe, they had a lot of different companies that did stuff over in Europe.
like Dan
So,
One.
but what like you said is a lot of the things when they started to go into the cards, they tried to get around it by making the cards not look like Pokemon cards. That's how they try to like
Yeah.
differentiate them. So
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people don't know if like are these things real or not. Yeah, I remember Rusty made a video about them, and he
So did SM Pratt actually talked about it very, very extensively on E4 too. Yeah.
okay. Oh, wow, I didn't see the SM Pratt one. So what,
Yeah.
does he think they're real or what? I think they're real.
He said that they should not, they're considered bootleg. And I agree with that statement. I think we had to look at it in terms of official to non-official Pokemon product, right? Like if I buy a toy and it's bootleg, that's bootleg. It's not an official Pokemon product. Now, am I saying it's not collectible? No. I fully believe it is collectible. Do I think that grading companies should grade it? I think that I know for a fact
grade them. Beckett grades them, right?
Miramax actually graded the first set actually with
that's the
with
weird thing is like, dude, they were made by a company that had the licensing from Pokemon.
but not for cards. The licensing did not extend to printing cards. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's where the gray area is because they actually had the licensing. So,
Yeah, if you look at the licensing,
how is it not real at that point. So like, is everything else that they made real technically?
The
like,
toys, yes, but not the cards.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
the toys, yes, but not the cards.
Like, dude, there's like a mousetrap. There's a fun school like.
Yeah.
I know
what you're talking about. Yeah. Some guys like asking for like $8,000 for it. I'm like, dude, go home.
That is like $3K or something. He told me.
Yeah, I was like, go home, man. It's not worth that.
There's one on. I think there's one on eBay. There might be one on eBay actually.
Yeah.
You know what's really cool that I've tried and been tracked down actually is there's an advertisement for Fun School where you had to like send things in like a promotion that they did actually with Pokemon, and there was actually a T-shirt. In that promotion, I've been trying to track that down. I know of one guy that has it. I know of one guy that has one that someone directed him to me. I have him on WhatsApp, and it's like I've been talking to this guy for God knows how long, trying to just a
butter him up, just so he can finally sell it to you.
You're gonna like sell it to me, but he won't like give me a price.
Yeah,
like,
no, I get it. But yeah, no, like if you, cause like on E4 they actually showed the actual license and of what it extended to.
They pulled it up.
Yeah, they brought it up. They put it up on E4, and I actually went through it. And basically, the licensing only extended to the toys, and that is it. It's just like shiny Pokemon, right? Pokemon themselves, when it comes to licensing for certain shiny Pokemon, they have to give permission for that. That's why Hasbro was the only company to do that. When it came to that, yeah. So it's just really crazy. That's why Bandai was only able to make these, and then Tomy for a little bit. So
I know, like I said, I know there's a lot of companies in like Europe and a lot of like different random companies here. Like if I grab like say this Meowth ornament, like it's made by this different company, Trendmasters. Like that's a company that they did a lot of random different Pokemon things back in the day. That's just one of those brands that they were given the rights to do all these different random things.
See, I think people have to understand is like when it comes to Japanese-based companies, they kind of hate Americans in a way. I mean, it's a nationalistic thing. It's. I mean, it makes sense, but like when it comes to,
they're like, but at the same time, they're like amazed by us too.
Yeah. But the thing
about the American culture,
right. But the biggest thing is that you guys have to understand that and this is proof of it, right? This is why Japan always has exclusive Japanese artwork. This is why Japan cards in terms of quality control is just a lot better than America. They do not care about what's being done here. Their job, what they're doing, is to bring money from the States to Japan.
Yeah, that's why they care.
Yeah, that's why they care.
The only reason they care is because how much money we make over here.
And that's why if you look at Bandai, for example, Bandai's the perfect example of this, right? You look at how much emphasis Bandai has upon their IPs, whether it's Digimon, Dragon Ball, or anything of the sort in Japan. But when you look at Bandai America and how often they've botched stuff here, like they botched every Digimon TCG here in the States. They botched the Naruto CCG here in the States. They even the games, like there was Jump Force that came out for PlayStation 4.
That game is dead already.
It's dead.
They shut the servers down, yeah.
Yeah, it's dead, and the storyline is just horrible. The thing is that they just do not care. They're only focused on bringing in the profits from here to Japan, rightfully so. But they're so strict they're very strict with their licensing. Pokemon is very, very strict. They are only going to be they're only there to just promote their brand, and that's it. And it's very, very temporary. It's depending on what the conversation is, but it's very, very temporary. It's why I think Pokemon is going to last a long, long time, just because of how strict they are with their licensing.
It's just also because of how much money they make from it. They have to be like that.
Yeah, they have to.
But to an extent, sometimes they are a little bit ridiculous. Like, all right, bro, like relax. You gotta relax a little bit on some of this.
Just bring the Mario Luigi promos here. Like, just do that here. You know?
They're known to do stuff like that, though. They're known to not. Dude, how long has it been? I don't know. How many artworks are there? I'd like to actually know that answer to this question. Like, how many artworks are there that are actually exclusive to English?
To Japan? Yeah, I have no
to
clue.
To English that didn't come out in Japan, because a lot of things come out in Japan that don't come out here. It's not really the opposite. Like the Chris Rush Mewtwo comes to mind for me. Like that's like a card I know. I don't think that came out in Japanese, right? Like
No.
That's like how many other cards are like that where it came out in English but it didn't come out in Japanese? I can't even like think of other ones.
Yeah, I can't think of too many. It's tough. It's tough.
A lot of them, like we were just saying, I know a lot of people are really pissed off about that too. Is how come we can never get cool exclusive promos here?
Yeah, but that's the reason why. It's the unspoken reason why.
Or I guess these like special deliveries too, right? I guess from the Pokemon Center. I guess that's exclusive here. They gotta be.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
No,
of
yeah.
those
They are. But just to kind of wrap things up, guys, thank you guys for joining us on it's not actually the first episode of the overall YouTube channel, but it is the first episode of the Vaulted Podcast, your number one source of cards, collectibles, and the community. We will be bringing on PokeDean tomorrow, actually. So we do have a podcast episode tomorrow with PokeDean, and then I believe we have a sports-based podcast with two huge former TikTokers at the end of this week, leading up to the National. And I might be able to get one more podcast in, maybe two podcasts in next week before the National. I do leave for the National on Thursday morning, so I will be gone as far as content goes. Not this Thursday, but next Thursday, all the way up to Sunday. But there will be some content there. Lots of cool stuff that's going on. I hope, like with the news that I currently got last week, I haven't heard back from this company yet. I quoted them, and I'm just waiting to hear back before I can basically say, before I make it official. Some people know. I'll probably tell Nunez here after this, but I think I already told him, but I'll tell him more in detail.
Yeah, you did.
But, after this, I hope you guys have a good rest of the evening. And again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're only 20 subscribers away from monetization. We already hit the hours. We just need 20 more subscribers. Guys, if you're in this chat right now, screenshot this, put it up on your story, tell people to follow us. And that's pretty much it, Like
having me on, man.
Dude, it's an honor. It's an honor. Every guest that I've had up to this point, I always want them back. And Daniel Barr, we will have comic content. I plan on having sneaker content in the future. I plan on having Legos content in the future. I plan on having so many different pieces of content. And the purpose of this, rebrand, this new revamp, is to basically talk about all things collectible. And it's just something that I'm very, very passionate about. I plan on talking because I have other things that I collect. I collect Digimon. I collect Yu-Gi-Oh. I collect toys. I just have appreciation for all things old and some stuff new. So that's the whole purpose of this. So again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to us through Spotify and Apple Podcasts, make sure you hit that 5-star review. And again, we'll see you guys tomorrow on the next live with PokeDean. You guys know him. He is Chloe's partner in crime. He's a good friend of his. He was just here in a tour of the States. So thank you guys so much for coming here. Nunez, thank you so much. Guys, make sure you follow Nunez on Instagram at Vintage Pokemon Hunter, no spaces, no numbers, no underscores, at Vintage Pokemon Hunter, Poke Hunter.
Yes, Vintage Pokemon Hunter, all one word.
Vintage Pokemon Hunter. Okay, cool, because I have that
Yes.
right in the title. And then just to quickly talk about our sponsors. Our sponsors are relatively the same. You guys know them. You guys love them. The Pokemon Network. He's the guy who goes woo in every video. I don't know why he does that. I don't know yet, but he is a sponsor of the channel. He has everything down to the most affordable slabs or sealed product down to the most expensive Pokemon products and cards there is. Make sure you contact him if you're looking for something. He will help you out. Then we have TCG Stadium. TCG Stadium is an online card shop based in Nashville, Tennessee. It has your day-to-day Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh product. New releases are always coming through, so make sure you stop by there and buy something. And last but not least, we have Double Infinity Gaming. They are an online card shop based in South Florida. They do have product when it comes to Pokemon, but they mostly focus on Magic the Gathering. This channel will be talking about more about Magic here very, very soon, I would hope. And that's pretty much it as far as that goes. Our unofficial sponsor is the Collector app. We want to talk about Collector because they are the most advanced portfolio tracking portfolio out there. Tracking portfolio app out there. They track numerous TCGs as well as Funko, sports, basketball, and eventually sports. There's a lot of cool stuff happening on there. You can add your collection on there. The days of typing stuff into Excel are gone. Just use that. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys have a good rest of the evening. And again, we will see you guys tomorrow. We will see you on a future podcast, Nunez. And again, much more luck to you in your future endeavors. I hope to see more content from you.
Whatever you're trying to grab, I know you were always, lurking, trying to find some stuff just like me. So.
Oh man, yeah,
good
you
luck,
know
bro.
it. You already, dude. This guy knows exactly.
You gotta look, bro. You always gotta look.
You always gotta look. Wise words from Vintage Pokemon Hunter. Always gotta look. Always put in the legwork. Just look for it. Good night, guys. See you guys in the next one, and peace.